Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast for founders, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and leaders navigating the journey of growth. In each episode, we get into the setbacks, the rebuilds, the pivots, and the lessons learned along the way. These are honest conversations with leaders who face challenges head on and found success in business and in life. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Lauren Cockerell. She is the founder and president at Kaidar Co, a strategic communications firm that helps business owners grow with clarity, confidence, and integrity. Lauren built her company after being laid off while 8 months pregnant, and since then, she has led through major transitions, including scaling the business and navigating a business partner exit. This matters for founders because her story is not just about starting over. It's about building a company that earns trust, stays valued led, and keeps people at the center while still growing. In this conversation, you will hear how Lauren thinks about leadership, communication, and the systems that help a founder lead well in both hard and successful seasons. Hi, Lauren. How are you today?
I'm great, Sonia. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm excited to get into this conversation with you.
Me too.
Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, let's get into the first question, which is a really important question. You were laid off while you were 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
What made you decide to build your own company instead of going back into another role?
Yeah. Diving right in. Yes.
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now that baby is 8 years old now. So it's we have some time and distance from that vulnerable moment. It's interesting because part of it was necessity. I couldn't go interview at that point. I mean, we live in a country where people think women don't want to work or don't want to come back from a pregnancy, for instance. That's just like the assumption that there might be that's a risky hire. Just to dive right into that. Hire moms, by the way. But going back to that moment, owning my own company was something I'd always wanted to do. I was in my middle-ish 30s at the time, and I thought, when I'm 40, I will know everything. And so that's when I'll start my own company. 40 has come and gone. Spoiler alert, I don't know everything. But it was kind of one of those things. I was still sort of evaluating what to do. It was going to take a minute to figure out family stuff. That was our second kid. Had a 3-year-old on the ground. And I was working with a coach at the time too, because the company I was with, spoiler, they weren't a great company. It's a little toxic. And so just to kind of figure out what was next for me in general, I really wanted to work with a coach to sort of put my head back on straight. And I was always going to evaluate to pass. Is now the time to start my own company, or should I go in-house someplace else? And business ownership had been in my heart for, at that point, about 15 years. And it just was like, okay, well, let's get going, and maybe I'll pivot at another time. But folks I'd worked with in my agency days prior to working in-house started coming out of the woodwork. So I'm like, oh, you're back on your own, you're back out there? Can we work together? And so it was just sort of like away I went. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. Never mind. Don't need to work on a resume after all.
But you know what? Sometimes necessity will do that to you, right?
Yes.
It'll get you out of your comfort zone, and you have no choice but to sort of pivot in life, not
Right.
just in business.
Right. It was one of those moments. I describe it as being crowbarred out of a bad situation. It was a role I had wanted to leave anyway, but I felt very stuck and trapped, and I'm just a loyal person. It was scary to leave. Despite everything, wanted to do right by them, and so I just kept going, and so while it was not the best timing for me personally, at the end of the day, it was a kindness that they removed me from that, because I didn't need to be there anymore. It wasn't great for me. It wasn't great for them. And I was really not getting to use my special skills and talents that make me uniquely me. So now I can.
So, in the early days of your company, what did you want the business to stand for from day one?
Well, a lot in those early days, it was a lot of what I didn't want more than anything. It was kind of like coming out of a bad relationship. You're like, well, I don't want that.
Checklist.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. Let's not do that again. And I really at that time was super adamant that I wasn't going to have employees. I felt like I don't want to make decisions based on needing to make payroll. I want to just serve people well, and that's it. I was going to be a lone
Hmm.
ranger. That very quickly changed. But one thing that that coach actually helped me with was identifying some of my personal core values, putting those down on paper. Our business values look different today, but
Mm.
my core values of being, family is what's most important. I'm not a heart surgeon or brain surgeon, like, so my family does get to come first. I don't have to speed off to the operating room. And fun. If I'm not having fun, then, I mean, maybe not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but by and large, I need to really enjoy what I'm doing.
Mm.
And, life is short. And so I wanted to enjoy work while I was at work, and then have some boundaries for family time with these young children I was raising, and my husband too, and to be able to get to do what I felt like I was put on earth to do, and to get
Mm.
to work with companies and organizations that I thought were doing great work, and to help them survive and thrive at that time. And so that has, while I eventually very quickly needed to bring on team members, that has remained definitely a kernel of the business. 8 years
Hmm.
in now, family comes first. We very much want a balanced work in life. Not, I mean, obviously there's seasons, and it's not
Hmm.
necessarily like everything is in balance all the time, but the pendulum needs to keep swinging. And people will call me, like, we have, for instance, I have a mental health day policy, 2 days a year, no questions asked, where, if you wake up and it is just not cooking for you today, just phone it in. You
Hmm.
get the day, and it doesn't count towards your PTO or anything. It's a separate bucket. So, like, things like that, where it's people's mental health, their emotional health, their physical health, and then their lives outside of work are very important. In addition to, we work hard and we do great work, and that's really
Hmm.
important too. And so I think when I first started, I was very focused on what's the right way to do this. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so it's all about, like, okay, I want to do it the right way. What I need my invoice to look right. I need it to look professional. I need to present a certain image. And a few years later, I realized, like, it's really up to me about
Hmm.
what kind of company I want to run, and the benefits I want to offer, and the services I want to deliver, and what I want client engagements to look like. I was still, like, searching for that trapper keeper high from eighth grade. Like, like, I need this perfection, this organization. It's like, no, I get to decide what kind of business owner I want to be, and that was so freeing. I
Yeah.
can crib from different ideologies or methodologies, or people I think are doing great work. I can pick and choose what makes sense for us, and that has been so liberating, to be like,
Yeah.
okay, this is who we get to be.
And it's funny you say that because your company, you help companies tell their stories
Yes.
that build trusts.
Right.
What what do most founders get wrong about PR and marketing?
That's a good question, because I think it's so interesting with PR, especially. I think
Hmm.
marketing, most people have a pretty good idea about what it is. We're putting butts in seats, or we're selling something. There needs to be a clear ROI. PR is a little bit squishy, and it can be squishy to define, and people come to the table with all sorts of, sometimes it's baggage, or ideas about what it is, or it's just media relations, or it's just publicity, or it's just crisis communications. And it's not so much that they're wrong, they just don't have the full picture. And that's not anyone's fault. It's just,
Mm.
it's, you have to, I don't know that any one of our clients even today could fully define all the many things that happen in that strategic communications delivery that we're doing. I think, you know, folks rightly want a return on their investment. What some folks don't realize is that the more you do and the longer you do it, the more it compounds. particularly in
Mm-hmm.
PR. Because as you build that awareness and that authority and that reputation, it starts to pay dividends year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And it's like, oh, well, I kind of wanted just like a shot in the arm and move on. Well, that would be marketing.
Right.
The PR gain is one that you invest in for the long term. And we had such an interesting year in 2025 where for a couple of our clients we did fewer releases, like outbound pushes, but they received more coverage than ever before because people were coming to them because they wanted to tell the story or they wanted to
Mm.
include our clients in a roundup or one of their expertise for an article. And so it's just one of those things. It's like the more you do, the better it gets, and that's when you really start to see that return. A few years in, you'll see it right away too. But the magic happens a little bit
Over
farther down
time.
the road. Yeah.
Got it.
Hmm.
You work you work with businesses that often overlook or seen as less exciting. How
Hmm.
do you find the story that actually makes people pay attention?
Yeah, that's one of my very favorite things to do is to for someone to come to me and say, well, we just what's exciting is when someone's like, we're tired of competing on price, we want to do something a little bit different. Like I'm swimming
Mm,
in the sea of sameness. There's this like expectation in our industry where we're all talking about these benefits or features, and it's now we're just racing to the bottom on price or whatever. I don't know how to change that, but I want to,
mm,
and you look at it and you realize, well, you're all saying the same thing. You're all singing from the same choir sheet, which is great from an internal perspective, but not when you're, competing.
mm,
And to be able to sit down with them and be like, okay, well, tell me about you. What is your ethos? Tell me about how you take care of your team members. Tell me about how you take care of your clients and your community, and what really is different about you. Like the questions, we have this proprietary methodology that we call the thread, where we are able to find the thread of their story, so we can tell
hmm
it in a way it's never been told before. And that is we love to be able to, and it's always, we call it the thread because there's always a moment in the conversation where someone will say something, kind of offhand, and like that's it, and we're like, we grab
mm.
onto that, we're like, no, no, pause, here it is, and we just build this whole narrative architecture around this. And it's something that they're so close to it that they can't see it, but so it takes kind of an insider outsider to be able to show them. We say you can't read the label from inside the bottle, so being able to kind of pull them out of the story from them and be like, here, this is it, and it's so exciting for them to see it for the first time, be like, oh, well, that's it, because there are these humble people who are doing great work that it's so hard to toot your own horn sometimes, and to be able to, like,
Yeah.
to have it feel good to talk about yourself too. It's not just like, oh, look at me, look at me, but in a way that feels really good to them, that they're excited to tell that story too. So we love it. I love interviewing them and interviewing their team, and whether on the from the line to the C-suite, there's all sorts of really beautiful stories to be told.
When your business partner exited, what became your hardest leadership decision?
Yeah, so there was a woman that it was like a collaborative partnership. We were dating very seriously, not like legally married, where we shared office space, we shared clients, and we shared employees. And one day she came to me and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I've taken a job and I'm shutting my
Oh.
business down at the end of the month. And I said, oh shoot, okay. Well, kind of wish we had talked about this sooner, but and it turned out to be, I really only had about a week's notice, and there was her name was on the lease, and I said, okay, here's the deal. I need you to handle the office. This is, we probably could have figured this out differently if I had a little more notice, but I need to take care of the employees that you and I share who are now solely my responsibility. So you
Hmm.
figure out the office space, I'm taking care of these folks, and I packed up my stuff and left. So like that was like job number one of, okay, I have to triage finances, I have to triage, some client engagements, and project confidence to, especially to the employees that we had at the time,
Yeah.
she'd be like, just kidding. Instead of two companies, there's now one. Do you trust me? Are you in? Sort of like a Jerry
Mm.
Maguire moment, you know. And thankfully they both said, you know, we believe you, even though they actually hadn't been with us for very long at that point. And now they've been with us for 4 years, but uh, yeah, thereabouts. So yeah, that was the biggest thing right then, was like, I need to take care of my people first and foremost. Everything else will sort itself out.
How was that for you personally, knowing that you sort of had that person to lean on in a way, and now you're like completely on your own?
Yeah. So right before this happened, I went to this event where they had a speaker, and he spoke about this mindset that he lives by, where anything that happens in his life, he's especially, you know, negative, like to say to yourself, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know how yet, but I'm
Mm.
trusting that it is." And this had just happened. I just experienced him saying this, so I I just kept saying that. I mean, I had this tremendous grief because it was a personal relationship and a friendship too, and I did rely on her very heavily. I just kept saying, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know how yet," you know, through my tears, sobbing. And I realized that it was time, because while I leaned on her, I think I overly leaned on her and relied
Mm.
on her, and I allowed myself to play too small as a result. Like, I was already starting to experience a little friction of, I wanted to take things in a different direction,
Yeah.
and I was going to have to negotiate how to do that, and it freed me up. It was the best thing to have happened to me. Same thing with getting laid off at 8 months pregnant. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. Her departing like that, best thing that could have happened to
Hmm.
me, because I needed to break free of that construct so that I really could move to the next level.
How did that season change the way you structured the business and led your team?
Things got real formal real fast. It was, you know, we went from like a team of kind of contractors, these part-time W-2s, to all of a sudden I had full-time W-2s. And you know, all of a sudden we started having, we always had like Monday calls, and it was like we moved to Monday calls plus daily stand-ups with the staff, to then we started having like quarterly meetings. I was just thinking, we had um, our our Q1 quarterly the other day, and I remember thinking about my first quarterly with them, where I'm like, you know, got myself very, you know, nicely dressed, and I'm like, okay, I gotta psych myself up to lead this team. And you know, now it's like I have this staff that does the preparation and agenda. I'm like, wow, things have changed. But you know, like really figuring out together and growing up together too. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the business like 3.0. Let's figure this out together, and kind of cobble together a few different methodologies and how we want to run the business. And I had just launched our core values as a company. And so we had this like weekly values champions that the team was like nominating. It was like a self-nomination process that continues to this day. And so much has changed. It's been like literally almost 3 years since this happened.
Mm.
And the business is, I mean, almost unrecognizable from then. It was like going from pre-K to graduate school overnight.
I love to talk about all the stuff that you have to do and reaching success, but I also love to talk about the things that don't succeed along the way. So,
Yeah.
can you share with me a failure that you may have had along your journey, and how you overcame it? It could be, I'm sure the minute I ask that question, the answer I usually get, oh my God, there's so many. It can be something that maybe you didn't overcome and you learned a lesson from that,
Hmm.
or it can be something that you overcame. So you can pick.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So yes, 2025 was a very interesting year. We
Mm.
experienced tremendous revenue growth, 70% top line revenue growth that year,
Wow.
um, which sounds exciting, and it was also very painful. You know, rapid growth like that is, I mean, like everything breaks, honestly. You
Hmm.
know, I heard a statistic the other day, like when you grow by 30%, almost all your systems and processes break to a degree. So it's like a
Yeah.
natural like level setting. Well, that was 70%. And I felt like I was on a rocket ride, but I was strapped to the outside of the rocket by duct tape. And it was like I'm leaving the atmosphere, and I'm burning to a
Oh
crisp.
no.
And like, oh my God. And, I really allowed myself to for my ego to get into the driver's seat. It was like,
Oh
well, I
wow.
mean, I'm experiencing this growth. It will obviously always be this way. And people will always be wanting what we have to offer, just like this. This is the new normal. Here we go. I staffed up. I kind of threw money and people at it. I just kept swinging like there was no tomorrow,
Mm,
even though there was a voice in the back of my mind saying, slow your roll. Like, you need to dial it back a little bit. You need to exercise a little more caution. And I paid the price for that. I didn't. One thing that happened was just brass tacks. My uh, my tax team had said, like, here, set aside this. Like, going into 2025. We're expecting your revenue to be X. So that means set aside this amount per quarter for your taxes. At no point in the year did I say, oh, hey, I'm exceeding this. And at no point did they say, hey, it looks like things are going kind of gangbusters. Maybe set aside a little more. So I made hiring decisions based on what I had in the bank versus what I might owe the
ooh.
government. And then 2020, I'm sorry, 2020. This is all 2024. I forget what year we were in. 2024, not 25. Last year was 2025. 2025 dawns. They're like, oh, yes, you owe $30,000 to the IRS.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, that is bad news. It didn't end up being quite that because we had to recategorize a few things. But I thought, man, if I had known that, I wouldn't have hired the last person I hired. I would have made a whole bunch of different decisions. I would have really
Mm,
thoughtfully done a few different things here. And so I own that 100%. We do things differently now. I'm like, how about once a quarter, y'all tell me what you think I owe versus projecting it a year out. But also, I, I, I went through all of that and it was extremely painful. That's probably the one thing in life I truly regret.
hmm.
But it was still a lesson I needed to learn. So I can't fully regret it because I think sometimes, like, the more painful it is, a group of friends and I call it like tuition to never going to do that again university. So
Yeah.
I'm never going to make that mistake again. And sometimes we have to learn the hard way. Um, and and so there's that, but also, so 2025 we experienced a dip. There was a decline after
Yeah.
2024, and I think we had to have that happen too. A, I needed to learn those lessons. B, I think we needed to, obviously the processes were breaking. We had to take a big old step back so we could take a big old step to the side and then now move forward because
Mm,
we used to just serve everybody. We never were thinking about, well, who do we really want to serve? What are we really
hmm.
great at? And so that really forced us to sit down and be like, okay, let's take our favorite clients. We could plant them in the ground and grow 100 of them. Who are they? What does that mean? How are we serving them? And to really do that strategic work on ourselves. We do that for our clients all the time, but we weren't doing it for ourselves. We had to do that too. And
Yeah.
I think that's common. That's why we get brought in, is because you're blowing and growing and who knows why.
Yeah.
And then it stops and you're like, well, what happened? So
So
anyway,
niching
yeah.
down was a
Yep.
priority for you.
Absolutely. I resisted it for years, Sonia. Like, I was just like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to.
No, it's
Well,
scary because you want to bring in as much business as possible.
right. But guess what? If you're everything
Yeah.
to everyone, you're nothing to no one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sad, but it's a good
Right.
point.
Right. And so we realized
Yeah.
that our magic is in that B2B space
Mm-hmm.
where it is like, we don't think it's boring, but a lot of the clients say, like, well, we're too boring. Like, what are you even going to talk about? Like, I will prove you wrong in one
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah. And I always tell people like I call them unsexy industries. I'm like, if you want
Okay.
to make money and
Yeah.
you want to be successful, do something for an unsexy industry
Yes,
because
exactly.
nobody else wants to do it and there is
Right.
a real need there.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think Warren Buffett made his squillions? It's not
Yeah.
sexy stuff.
No, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna build a e-commerce company and it's, make millions and it's all sexy," but there's like all this other stuff out there like
Hmm.
mining, oil and gas,
Hmm.
manufacturing, like
Yeah.
all of these industries that need so much innovation and products. And I spoke to someone the other day and they just build like cranes for products that get shipped.
Hmm.
And who knew that innovation was required in that
Oh
space?
yeah.
Because apparently it's just all done through boxes and stuff. And I was like, wow, there's a real like example of an
Yeah.
unsexy industry, but yet this guy's making a killing doing it.
I know. I love it. Like you're making how much making a bolt? Tell me everything. I truly want to just sit there for hours and hear every single nuance to your story. And
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, one of our core values is delightfully curious because we just want to know everything. Like you cannot tell us
yeah,
too much. Like seriously, let's go.
yeah. As a working parent and founder, what have you had to become more honest about in the way you manage your time and energy?
Mm. Well, I have had to learn that it's less about time and more about energy, for one. I think both in how I show up at work and also as a parent, because I really am more of a quality over quantity person
Hmm.
in all lanes of my life because I'd rather, you know, I want to make it count for every hour. If I'm picking up my kids, like if they have to go to aftercare at school, I want to make that extra hour count at work. Or if I'm with them, I want them to feel like I'm with them. So I feel like, I've got multiple shifts throughout the day. It's like I wake up in the morning and it's like, I do a little bit of work and then I'm mom mode, then it's work time and then mom mode and then it's like I kind of my day is very fractured. But that's the season I'm in. At some point, there will come a time not in the not too distant future where they need me less and less and less. And right now they want me around, and so I want to be
Yeah.
there for them. But also, I tell them about my day. I tell them about my business. If I've had a bad day, like I tell them why. I mean, maybe they can't handle all the details, but they know like, oh, a client call didn't go well today, or I lost a deal, or had a great day because I had a great client call. And they have no idea what is going on, but they are very deeply invested. They love to, get the mail with me, or they're like, oh, did you get any checks today? And they want to help me scan the money in, and like, how much money do you have in your bank account? And, they're like, I want to do what you do. I don't know what it is, but I'm in. It's very sweet. But then, I just want to make it all count. And I think that's the most important thing. There are days, I had a big project that I really wanted to do last Thursday, but I really wasn't feeling well. I was like, okay, I can't do this today, but there are things I can do. And I was able to get a bunch of other stuff done. And
Hmm.
so it's the same thing, when it's time to shine for parents, like, okay, well, what can we do together and, and make it count and make you feel seen and that you feel like I didn't just have my face in my phone for your entirety
Yeah.
of your childhood.
One thing that I always like to talk about, I mean, this show is called Tenacity. And the reason why it's called Tenacity is because like it really does require tenacity to be a founder, to build a company and not just build it, but keep running it. I don't think sometimes people understand that like it's consistently a
Yeah.
struggle at different stages. Like you described, the year that you didn't plan things properly. But I'm thinking as you're saying it, I'm like, can you imagine if that happened in like in 10 years when you're really successful and
Yeah.
you owe like way more.
Right, right.
So everything sort of happens for a reason. But can you share like a tenacious moment that you've had in your business that has really led you to where you are today?
Every year has these moments where I think, okay, do I go work at Starbucks now? What else is there?
Yeah.
And I think success isn't necessarily financial success or
Mm-hmm.
the adoration of your peers. It's did you get up when you got knocked down? And at the end of the day, are you the one standing?
Yeah.
And I think I have to be just delusional enough to keep going sometimes. I think so 2025, the actual 25, not the 2024 I was thinking about. It's 2025. It was interesting because I think one of my greatest qualities and my biggest downfalls is that I'm an optimist. And I can be almost ruinously optimistic
Mm-mm.
sometimes. It's
Mm-hmm.
really great in a pinch, like today's a bad day or this is a bad moment, and I can really think myself through it and like I've got this, I can keep going. But when it's like month 4 of a bad year and clients aren't prospects aren't signing the deals that they said they were going to sign, or a great client's like, okay, we're all set now, and they charge off into the sunset. It, Being able to keep rowing the boat at that point
Mm.
is tough. There's a great anecdote I see a lot in business books about General Stockdale, I believe is his name. He was a prisoner of war during Vietnam. And he tells a story about the ones who survived were not the optimists. The optimists were like, we'll be out by Christmas, and then Christmas would come and go. And then like, we'll be out by Easter, and then Easter would come and go. And they just slowly withered away and died, unfortunately, because they were just like, we're like, we can do this.
Mm.
But the pragmatists were the ones who were able to survive. I was like, oh no. I feel like I'm a prisoner in my own business right now. And I really kind of had to sit down and make a decision like, okay, what do I really want out of this business? And it really brought a reckoning of like, I don't want to, like I said earlier, I don't want to be everything to everyone. I don't want a huge
Mm.
agency. I want a premium agency where we work with maybe 10 clients at a time, and there's a fee for that,
Mm-hmm.
for that exclusivity and attention. But I want to be able to fully wrap my arms around the people who trust us, and I want to serve them deep, and I want to serve them well, and I want to know them. And that brought so much clarity and relief to be finally honest with myself about who we are and who we serve, and that survival, I think, is my tenacious moment of not folding it in last year, even though I certainly had lots of opportunity and would not have been blamed for doing so.
Yeah. And, listening to you, I'm like, this is the number one takeaway from this episode. It's like, I think it's so important to do that. And not enough people do it early on,
Hmm.
and then they get burned out of
Yep.
their own companies, and they're like, wait a
Hmm.
minute, didn't I start my own business so I would have more free time so I
Hmm.
could spend
Hmm.
time with my family? But now they're spending like triple the time than they
Right.
did when they had a full-time job working for someone
Hmm.
else, right?
Right.
So I think it's
Hmm.
really important to go through that exercise and sort of try to figure out the path you want to go down.
Hmm.
um but we're coming up on time. But before we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question. For the founder listening right now who is in the hard transition, what is the first move they should make to lead with more clarity?
Mm. I'll be morbid for a minute if I can.
Yeah,
If you've never written your own obituary before, I would highly recommend that you do.
I was not expecting that.
Uh-huh. Stephen Covey says begin with the end in mind, and sitting down and thinking about the legacy you actually want to leave behind one day when we don't get to, don't usually get to know when that um, is very clarifying. And
Mm,
it defines how you want people to feel when you're not here anymore. And that includes in your business, in your personal life. If you're sacrificing your family for your business, how are they going to feel? Or if you're, or vice versa, if you're kind of everywhere, but your business isn't getting the attention it needs, it's time to dial it in. Um, I don't think enough people think about that, and that is an extremely clarifying moment itself.
mm,
And to know that just remember that life is precious, and we get one ride around this earth. And um, I think if you're struggling and you're not really, if you've forgotten why you're doing this, and
Mm,
everything feels really hard, think about, okay, let's, pick a date in the far future. Like, when are you shedding your mortal coil, and what is the legacy you're leaving behind? And things get real crisp and clear real quick.
mm. I love it. That's great. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time and the candid conversation we had and just sharing your experience and your journey as a founder. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the great conversation, Sonia.
I want to thank Lauren for joining me today. What stands out to me from this conversation is that strong leadership is not built by avoiding hard seasons. It is built by deciding what those seasons will teach you, then turning those lessons into better standards, better structure, and better decisions. Founders do not earn trust just by telling a good story. They earn it by building a business that is clear, consistent, and aligned from the inside out. This week, take one pressure moment in your business and turn it into a system, not just a reaction. And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me on this journey of learning and growth. If this episode resonated with you, take a moment to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building through a challenge right now. You can also connect with us on social media and be part of a community that believes resilience is the real advantage. Remember, growth isn't linear, success isn't guaranteed, and setbacks are part of the process. What matters is how you execute. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.